What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Exchange for another in-person podcast, which is always fun. We just spent a weekend at C2E2 Chicago Comic Expo. Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. One of the biggest cons here in the US, in the world, really. We had an absolute great time. We wanted to jump on today, talk about it, our experience of it. Probably the biggest thing about it was that it was the 10-year anniversary of Star Wars Rebels this year. Therefore, the cast is sort of going around to different cons. Doing panels, meet and greets, all that sort of thing, which we were very happy to be a part of for this convention in terms of just engaging with them, being involved and stuff. So that was super fun. We're going to talk through all that. Met up with a lot of our friends who are also Star Wars content creators. We, roamed the convention floor, all the things you do at a Comic Con. We just had a great time. So we want to talk about it. Obviously not Star Wars Celebration, but still a lot of Star Wars stuff to talk about. We'll try and keep it as focused on that as possible. But of course, we want to talk about our own experiences because we don't really get to. This is our second con we've ever done together.
Yep.
Which was so much fun. So, but before we get into that, so I sort of jumped ahead a bit there. How you going today, Mike?
Doing okay. It was a good day, but we were watching the next game and it just wasn't the best at the end there. But that's all right though. That's all right. We're still leading up in the series, so that's all right. Yeah. but he's got me watching basketball, so now I'm invested. But it's going good. This is the end of our trip. Really, this is the last night, last full day. So it's another this third trip come and gone, and now it's just wow, just the emotions of just wrapping everything up and everything. So, but it's been a great time. We watched all of season 1 of Rebels together in the finale with all our friends, and then today we watched Siege of Lothal and start us off if we want to continue marathoning it separately. But at least we watched season 1 together, which was great because we're always talking about it. But so yeah, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Man, it's hard to get my mind off of that basketball game, I must admit. But I'm going to for the next 40, 50 minutes. No, I'm doing good. Yeah, we've had a great time together. I think we're still coming down a little bit from the weekend. It's you wake up early, go to bed late, you walk around all day, you're doing stuff just the entire day. It's an absolutely exhausting experience, but it's so worth it. It's so much fun. But yeah, no, I'm doing great. I'm a bit upset going home tomorrow. I got that 24-hour flight ahead of me, or 24 hours of travel, I should say. Excuse me. And it's even more this time because flight mess around. Don't worry about that though. Anyway, so yeah, feeling a bit on edge, but that's normal. We've had such a good couple of weeks together, and yeah, sad to see it come to an end. But I'm excited to talk about C2E2 today because it really was just a great experience. I think we were talking yesterday, Celebration as a convention, just the grandeur around it is obviously something more enjoyable for us in that aspect of it. But C2E2 is so great in a different way for us personally because we get to spend time with our friends. We get to really soak up the convention floor, kind of do those smaller things that a celebration doesn't allow you to do because there's so much other things going on. So from that point of view, it was so much fun to just hang out with our friends, go talk to the likes of Tiya, Sircar, Freddie, Prinze Jr., even though that wasn't much of a conversation, take a photo with the cast of Rebels, go to the Rebels panel. That stuff you do at Celebration anyway, but I think, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, we just had the best time ever. Let's start with our highlight, I think. And I already alluded to it, so I'll start with mine, and maybe yours is the same, so we can talk about it. But we did a few signatures. We did 2, Freddie, Prinze Jr., Tiya, Sircar, both of us. We also took a photo with the Rebels crew, which included Steve Blum, Vanessa Marshall, Freddie Prinze Jr., Lars Mikkelsen, and Tiya, Sircar, which was super fun. We'll talk about that whole just experience in a second. But yeah, meeting Tiya, Sircar was definitely my favorite con moment of the weekend. She's just such a sweet person. 6 of us were getting an autograph from her in the same group, and all of us had 5-minute personal conversations with her just because she allowed for that. And she wasn't just sort of sitting there like a brick wall. She would really engage with what we were saying to her. And then when we saw her later, she remembered us as well, which was awesome. So we all had very different conversations, but really nice ones with her. I actually was, for whatever reason, I decided that what I wanted to talk to her about was that we were in the room when they announced that Sabine was recast, and it was upsetting. And I sort of said to her, you don't have to say anything back to that. I understand that's sort of a controversial thing to talk about, but she actually gave me a great response and just said like, yeah, it was really heartbreaking, and it's not something that like this is. I'm not quoting her, but along the lines of it doesn't sit well with her because she's upset about it. There's no hate towards Natasha or anything, but obviously she's just upset that she didn't get to continue playing Sabine. But yeah, it was just really great to have a nice conversation with her, and I might see her in Australia in a few months as well.
Right.
But yeah, that was just awesome. She gave us all the time of day, and even just listening to the conversation that we'd have with you, our friend Parks, and our other friends that went up to talk to her. So yeah, that was just a really great moment. What was your highlight? Was it that? Tell us about it.
I think it has to be talking to Tiya, because it was just great. Like we'll get into it, but the Rebels panel wasn't all that. Like it had definitely missed some points for me. So I was feeling a bit bummed about that and some other stuff. And, it's just whatever. I just kind of want the con to wrap up or whatever. And you just talked to Sabine. I'm sorry, Tiya. I mean, they're really one and the same, but you talked to Tiya, and she was just, she is Sabine in her best moments. And she just talked to us with an open heart. And when we were going up there, she had an empty line. So we're like, yeah, let's just go up there. But we're kind of hesitating. Like, should we go? Should we not? Like, let's just go. And it was great. It was really impactful for me. And it was just great talking to her about like how much Rebels impacted me and has, how much it still influences my life. And she was just so amazed. And she's like, thank you for supporting the show. And then I said, I started watching the show came out when I was a high schooler, a sophomore year. And second year of high school, and I was just like, oh, this and that. Now I'm a teacher, and then I even got to show her photos of a student that used the Darksaber for some school activity, and she's like, wait a minute, like you actually just let him use it? Oh wow, like that's amazing. Like that, like did you give him an assignment to do beforehand to like let him use it? Like that's big. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. I made him watch Trials of the Darksaber, and she said, oh my gosh, that's great. And I showed her this picture I took, because he learned the forms from that episode and he was teaching others about it. And so I showed her, and she thought it was the coolest thing. So it was great talking to her. And I just, in the middle of chatting with her, I just felt like crying, because it just felt like Sabine was just talking to you. Again, Sabine in her lighter moments, not the very like her sassy ways, in the lighter moments, the way when she cares about Ezra, she cares about Hera, she cares about Kanan, Zeb, Chopper, when she's worried. And she was just the greatest, the best highlight for me from C2E2 was just getting to chat with her, and then again later she remembered all of us, which was great. So yeah, she was a highlight for me, and
just like very gracious, very humble, great to talk to, and it just like reaffirmed all my thoughts and feelings about just the way, not just particular with Tiya, but just how that whole animation to live action transition was handled with Rebels and Clone Wars characters. Like you have a case like Ashley Eckstein, where that probably wasn't possible, but then sort of the Tiya Sircars and potentially others. I think she was the one that missed out the most, who really could have taken the character into live action. And like both of us, like we were crushed when they announced that. We went from the excitement of like this sneak peek at Ahsoka back in 2022 to like both sitting down being just in complete disappointment. And yeah, again, that's no slight on Natasha, but I just think, Tiya just embodied the character so well. And I mean, we just love her. She was,
and she comes from on-screen acting. That's where
exactly.
She even said at the panel, she was saying that, hey, for me, animation I was new to this, right? This was like my real big first animation gig, because I come from the world of live action acting, So to me, I think she just would have been great at carrying on that Sabine thing. And I know, people will be, well, she's not Asian or whatever, but it's also like, because Sabine was meant for, someone like Natasha, but then Natasha got flack, right? If you're going down that path, Natasha got flack because she's from Australia. She's not from directly from one of, she is Asian, but she's not directly from one of the, Asian countries, like, born and bred. She's from Australia, so I think it's a whole different conversation. But I just want to point that out before people came at us for saying, "Hey, we would have loved to see Tiya Sircar continue on playing Sabine."
No, I think that's good to point out. And I'm not really talking at it from that perspective at all. Like, I don't even really understand all that. I just think that it could have worked, and that probably should have been the path they went down.
Right.
Either way, we love Tiya, and her memory. She's not dead. Her performance as Sabine will live on forever in Rebels, and whatever they do with the character going forward, that's fine. We'll watch. I hope they get it right, but Tiya will always be Sabine to me, and that's just again, not trying to be disrespectful towards anyone else, but that's just the way it is. She's where it came. It's like that's just where Sabine came from,
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, I love Sabine and Ahsoka, by the way. Like, I at the end, I thought Sabine. There is moments where I was just like, oh my god, this feels like Sabine from Rebels. The same as like and this really it didn't even have to do with the writing. It just felt like the actor chemistry between the characters or the actors of Ezra and Sabine. They just like clicked, and it just felt like it was just natural. Nothing was being forced. So for me, I'm still happy with Natasha Sabine, but again, I'm just going back to that initial response from Anaheim where I'm like, oh man, like I still think Tiya should have been the one to play Sabine, but I'm not mad that Natasha is playing Sabine in live action. I think she's doing a fine job.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of at not a crossroads, but I could see both,
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Either way, I think that speaks volumes that was the highlight for both of us. Just great experience. But let's talk about the Rebels panel, the 10-year anniversary. The cast, it was one of the first times they'd been together for a long time. Unfortunately, Taylor Gray was meant to be there, didn't end up. I think he had an ear infection, something like that. So that was disappointing, obviously. But nonetheless, I thought we went into the panel thinking this is gonna be great. Little did we know, at least I didn't know, that this was the first time they'd all met Lars Mikkelsen, which was like, wow, okay, that's a cool moment for sure. But yeah, like something that I think that happened at the Rebels panel was, again, not trying to project any hateful energy. However, the panel just, it was enjoyable in one sense for sure. However, the host of the panel I'm not sure if she'd watched the show or not. It really felt like she hadn't, which was really disappointing because the whole thing was almost a train wreck. We had just silly questions and awkward moments where it's like she couldn't pull the chemistry that the cast had with each other, which they clearly had, by the way. They all are like great friends and stuff. And yeah, so we had some great moments in the panel, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but it was a tough watch at time. And I think an example of that is something I really liked was that the questions, instead of having people line up and sort of not having the questions be unknown, that you could scan a QR code and all the best questions would be answered. And I thought, great, what a good way to filter out all the crap, no offense. But instead of that, it seemed that was what was pulled out. And instead of having questions about the show and characters and, just anything relevant, it was more questions like, what would your character's favorite ice cream flavor be? Or what's another example? I know there were others. What would each crew member get each other for Christmas?
Right.
And it was like, okay, what are we doing here? Anyway, so it was a little disappointing, and I think you could feel the cast members, especially Freddie Prinze Jr., not being altogether happy to be there after 10 or 15 minutes because it was going that way. So that was disappointing.
It was. But
we'll talk about the good moments. But how do you feel about just the panel? Good, bad, the ugly? What do you think?
See, last year we did the Clone Wars panel where Ari wasn't there, but we did the Clone Wars panel. And it was just great because we even got to sing Matt Lanter Happy Birthday. Like, it was just so out there. And even like the Clone Wars cast, like, all right, everybody, like, stand up. We're going to take like a group selfie with everyone, right? Like, it just was so involved with the fans. And I mean, Sam Witwer was there, James Arnold Taylor, who plays Obi-Wan, Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lanter. And it was great because they're talking about their experiences from the show, and they would talk about, how they got into the Clone Wars and everything. And it was, I don't know, like, I hope there's a way that I can access the Clone Wars panel from last year and see how it lines up with the Rebels one and what could have gone better. But I remember the Clone Wars one just being like spot on great, where we even got to talk to the host afterwards and just compliment her and be like, oh my god, like this was great, like the energy was just it flowed evenly from the stage to the audience. And I think it really liked that this time around, because it was so awkward up on stage. And then usually when you say stuff like the Kanan comics, everybody's like, yeah, crazy, but he had to start it off like clapping. And
that was a good moment, to be fair.
It was, but it's just like, oh my gosh, it was just so lacking because of the awkwardness on stage.
Yeah.
But
that's a great point.
We really got some weird questions up in there that could have been avoided. I mean, you want to when you do these, I said this to you the other day, but when you do panels like this isn't a panel for a show that's coming out. This is not like a kind of like promoting our show out there on the airwaves. This is something very different, because this show, they're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of its debut. All the diehard people are in the room, right? Like, who's going to a Rebels panel in 2024?
10 years after the show.
It's all the diehard fans, and we already know the basics of we just know the basics. And I felt like the host didn't even know what Rebels was.
Yeah.
And she was asking the most like vanilla questions. So I'm like, we've all seen this before.
And it was like, oh, what was your reaction when you got cast? It's like, we heard this 10 years ago, to the point where I think Tiya even picked up on this, and she goes, like, she was forced into an answer that she'd already given, and she literally prefaced her answer by going, I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this. And I was like, yes, we have already heard this.
And even Freddie Prinze, it was awkward between him and the host, because then the host kind of shot back at him. But
and also he just doesn't take any crap.
No, it was the way it was framed was, what do you think about the show 10 years after? And it's like, come on, like, it's just, and then Freddie Prinze was like, hey, I think we should move on with this one, because we are going to say the same answer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and then she was like, oh my God. It was an awkward silence. And the host was like, well, like, I just mean like, and it was just, you just don't want to hear that when you're at a panel. and there was also this awkwardness of, oh, hey, some of us made the transition from animation to live action. And some of us did it. And it was just so weird. We got a question up there that was like, where do you see your character? What do you see your character doing in the future, or something like that?
And it made like that aspect, it was talked about but not addressed, which was just so incredibly awkward. You could feel like just the tension almost, like in Tiya Sircar's answer. Vanessa Marshall as well, and then while Lars Mikkelsen over in the corner just kept going.
He didn't catch
oh well, in Ahsoka,
and no one clapped. You think that people would have clapped for? Oh, Ahsoka,
it was
no one clapped.
Yeah, I think you were mentioning like the energy in the room. The energy on the stage was like what was being given out was what the crowd reciprocated with, because like you say, like there was moments where, like, we've been in panels at Star Wars Celebration, we know what it's like. People go crazy, but in this, like, it was like something like the Kanan comic. Usually, if like the panel was a fun vibe and all that sort of stuff, you'd hear people clapping. And I was more like, it was like an angry clap, like, because I was just like, let's get some energy in here, and also Kanan comic sensitive subjects. But it's a great point about the that just like, where do you see your characters like going after Rebels? It's like, do you know anything about Star Wars? Like, it was very awkward.
It was very awkward. So it could have gone way better. So definitely, like, we all got up like, well, that was something. And then it was something
as well. But leaving it off on, I thought, okay, let's at least leave this off on a good note. But then the host started saying the answer, but then it ended with, what was? Oh yeah, that question was, what advice do you have for fellow voice actors? And I just thought, hold on. I think this question applies for about 2% of people in the room. And the same thing where the cast is sort of like, this isn't a great question, and they're trying to answer it, but in a way that applies to everyone. And one of them actually did give a great answer. I believe it was Steve Blum, which was saying, anything in your life that you really care about, make everything else, work hard in every other area to make sure you can you can do the thing that you love. So he ended up giving a good answer, but nonetheless, it was like they really had to fabricate that themselves. And oh man,
it was even another question like, what are you up to these days?
Yeah. Oh my.
And it's like, it's embarrassing because, and it's very, it's not embarrassing, but it's just, it could be a very touchy subject for a lot of the people up there that are not doing anything related to filmmaking or just
Acting,
haven't gotten any auditions. Like I don't think you ask a question like that. I think something at the end you can say, is there anything you want to plug in?
Yeah.
Right. But it was like awkward, and like Tiya Sircar didn't even share what she's like, I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm like, I'm in the talks to play blah blah blah, like something.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it, but all I'll say, when I do find out, I'll share with you guys. And I'm like, why did she have to answer that? Why did you
exactly? Why did you force her into that?
And it's like, we know what Lars is up to. He's up there filming Ahsoka season 2 soon be. So I mean, it was just really unnecessary to do.
She was asking as if like, you'd ask that to someone like, I don't know, Pedro Pascal, like, so what's going on in the future? Because he's up to something in Star Wars. These characters have been kicked out of Star Wars and we're at a Star Wars panel and you're asking them what's going on. So we ended up talking about Vanessa Marshall's Twitch channel, Steve Blum's voice acting school, which we love those guys. Happy to hear about it. But, we got an hour to talk about Rebels and its 10-year anniversary.
Well, I mean, we could have moderated that panel better. I mean,
oh my God, I would have loved to have done that.
What's the first question you would ask the Rebels gang?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm getting a phone call.
I think it's the Rebels panel asking us to host.
Yeah, they are. No. For example, the first question. This wouldn't have been the first question, but just a question is, what is each of your favorite seasons of the show? Right. What's your favorite episode of the show? Looking back, what's a moment that now that the show's over, you feel is really symbolizes your character's journey, or what's a moment that you personally connect? Like just anything. That's 4 questions I just came up with in about 2 seconds. Right. We didn't get any of that. It was just, so if your character was to eat ice cream one day, what would its favorite? And like the cast did a good job trying to, that like I think Lars was like, oh, something blue. Or what was the question where they said, what would you get each other for Christmas? And Lars said, just straight up incarceration, which was very funny. But
that was honestly, that made that question worth it, because everyone gave these like, oh, I'm going to buy like Melu runs, and they're all trying to be funny and everything. And then in the most serious tone, and it almost sounded like an outburst, Lars Mikkelsen goes up to the mic and he's like, incarceration. Like it was just so funny to me. I genuinely had an outburst laugh, but that, I mean, come on. But you could have gotten other great responses like that. And I don't want to make it sound like we hate fun, right? We hate fun questions, but you can totally ask those questions. Sure. But like this side was not carrying the weight to ask those fun questions.
Exactly.
Like it didn't work out like that.
Yeah. Let's not get too far down the rabbit hole though, because we could go further. Let's talk about some of the good things, because the first thing that came to my head was something Freddie Prinze Jr. said about Kanan. This was what I wanted them to talk about the entire panel. Right. And just like, reflecting on their journey as actors and their characters' journeys, how were they feeling? And Freddie Prinze Jr. talked about how Kanan had been through so much and he carried all this trauma with him, and that people can really resonate with Kanan and see themselves in Kanan because he's so, what's the word? He's just a relatable character, and that he carries a lot of trauma with him. And that Freddie felt himself carrying that throughout the show. And he gave this really great answer. Yeah. That was the sort of thing we were looking for. And that was one of the great moments. So do you have another great moment, or do you want to talk about that?
I think that was the great moment for me. I mean, it was so great to hear about, in person, hear about Tiya Sircar's whole speech about what Sabine means to her, and just the moment that her favorite moment of the show of the Darksaber. Like I know some of you guys already, most of you guys know this, but my favorite moment of the show is Tiya Sircar or Sabine's trial with the Darksaber and her whole back and forth with Kanan. And she said that was really difficult to shoot or to record because of this and that. And also I love hearing behind the scenes stuff about that I didn't know this one, that they would use lightsabers when they would act, or like they would do a lot of like they would be dueling each other, but they were doing the voiceover, right? They would be doing a lot of, they would just be playing with lightsabers. Or there's this really funny story they said about Jason Isaacs, who plays
shout out Jason Isaacs, the Grand Inquisitor.
And there's no other Grand Inquisitor than that.
I'm not saying there isn't one. Jason Isaacs is the Grand Inquisitor, and I just think he does a really great job. I just want to say that.
I got the Grand Inquisitor Black Series though, which is
did you?
Yeah,
I didn't recognize it.
Oh, okay. But it was great because they had this whole funny moment, and they were alluding to the fact that Freddie Prinze Jr. had like some beef with Jason Isaacs during the first recordings, because like he found a miniature golf course set in one of the recording offices, and he like laid it out, and he was playing while they were supposed to recording or something like that.
Yeah,
but they were just like, and Freddie's like, I don't remember, no, and
it was like Freddie was really like locked in,
and
Jason Isaacs was fooling around,
and
he just kept but then that sort of got awkward because there was 5 minutes of Freddie Prinze going, I really don't remember that. And like they would move on to another question, and you could see him on stage going to Vanessa Marshall, who told the story. I'm like, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Like it was just this. Oh. Anyways, but
yeah,
there was something, probably one of the best things as well was that something they talked about, which has been mentioned before, but they really went in depth on this and how it was a unique experience and how they thought it really added to the show and their performances, which was being in the booth together, which they say in other voice acting jobs that they've had, where that isn't regular. You're in the booth by yourself, you record your lines, but they would record the lines in the same room together as if it was a scene in a live action movie, and they could work off each other. And this story's been told over and over again, but I think they told it in a new light about the Trials of the Darksaber episode where Dave sent everyone home except Freddie, Tiya, a sound engineer, and himself. And Freddie and Tiya said they were recording face to face, and they were just staring each other like in the eye while they were recording, which I was like, wow, like, yeah, that's an awesome story to hear. Like, that's unusual. And like, if someone was to do a video essay about that episode, like our friend Parks, he could say that this is great and here's how they made it great and stuff like that. So that was a really cool thing to learn about, as well as just like the cast dynamic. Like some of those funner stories, Vanessa Marshall saying like how she would bring everyone snacks, and just this funny little stuff like that, the quirks that they would have, and how they do really feel like a family. And something like I wanted to know is like, do you guys still see each other? Like that's what people are interested in, whether the answer is yes or no. It's interesting to hear about that stuff. And and they mentioned it, but then it was just like, okay, so what's your favorite ice cream flavor? One more thing from me, and like whether you like or hate Friends, I don't care. I liked the show growing up. I watched the Friends reunion a few years ago, and that was really great. I thought like that wasn't live, so I guess they had that advantage. But I was like, that's how. Did you spill coffee on yourself? Let's go. I'm gonna clip.
We're doing it live.
But if you're doing a reunion, you should look at how they did that reunion. It was like an hour and a half, all the right questions to ask. Like the actors were in tears at times with each other because, reminiscing on all that sort of stuff. And I just thought, wow, like, oh, what a missed opportunity. I know they're going to go to other cons. Hopefully, like they can sort that out. And this is not a slight on the cast at all, by the way. The cast did the best with what they were dealt, and the host, no hate toward them. I just don't think they've watched the show, which they should have got one that had. Right. That's all it is.
And sorry, you might have seen me earlier before I dropped my coffee. I was like, because I just remember one of the questions that they asked that was a big face palm. What is your character's favorite type of music?
Do they really ask that? I think I must have blanked that out.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, because it just came back to me, and Lars Mikkelsen was like it was classical music or something. And it just, again, we just got these questions that took away from stuff that we want. I always want to leave these panels learning something new that I hadn't before.
I just thought of another one that they asked. It was, what would your character do in its spare time?
Oh, that's what it was. Or something like, I don't know.
And it was this whole thing. It was like, oh my God. And the Tiya's guy's like, oh, Sabine would be painting. And it was just like,
right. It's
I feel bad for all of you. I
really did. And like Freddie Prinze Jr. had like a rated R answer, and I'm like,
okay, that was a great moment
funny.
though. So to be fair, that question again prompted a good answer. Freddie he joked about it multiple times, but the answer was, what would your character do in your spare time? And Freddie went, well, Kanan and Hera had a kid together, so I guess that speaks for itself. kids might be listening, but anyone else could figure out what he's alluding to there. So, and he alluded to that multiple times throughout, and even like we learned something about him that was interesting. That he said, "Oh, I found out they had a kid because my daughter told me when she watched the episode,"
Right.
which is interesting in a sort of disappointing way, because it's like,
Right.
damn, like you weren't at the finale,
Right.
premiere, all that sort of stuff, and
Yeah.
he fell out of love with the show a little bit.
And you can tell that there must have been some sort of falling out between him and the Rebels, not the crew that he's all friends with, but like the production crew or Lucasfilm or Disney or something happened, because I mean, just for you not to show up at your own show's premiere or like finale thing, like that's kind of insane. I know he's not in the finale, but you get what I'm saying, you know, just in support of your castmates and just being a big part of the show. So I don't know if he was upset that Kanan was killed or something. I don't know. I mean, there's this. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but point is, it added more to our suspicion that there was some sort of falling out between him and Lucasfilm.
Yeah, and like I guess ultimately it was just a little disappointing that, and this isn't him. Like it's just disappointing circumstances that had happened, because you could feel that his energy was sort of detached a bit in that panel, and everyone's noticed that over the last few years. And we were watching Rebels Recon season 1 the other day, and it's insane how energetic and involved he is. He loves everything about it. So it's slightly disappointing. And let's talk about, because we got a signature with him. With all that in mind, he's probably not going to talk to us. We'll just get a signature, and that's cool. We'll hang it up because we both love Kanan. That's Mike's favorite character, which I mentioned to him, and he said, "That's cool, man." It was just like it wasn't a lot from Freddie, which was I can't even say I was disappointed because it was expected, but I think it was a bit like, again, sort of confirming our suspicions about his potential falling out, whatever's happened there, but just that something has gone on with Freddie, and it's disappointing because Kanan is just such a fantastic character, and he did such a good job with it as well.
And I told you earlier when we're watching Siege of Lothal, there's this moment where Kanan's like, like, who is it from? Chop? Just play. Who cares? And that's totally Freddie Prinze Jr.'s like energy right now. And you know, he's not a big jerk, but it's just like he gives off like the energy that he doesn't care. Yeah. Which is disappointing, right? Because but he just is totally in that era in his life, I guess, or whatever.
And
but
that's, we're not dissing him at all. That's fair enough. But that was just our experience that we're going to share with you all. So, but yeah, another great thing we did with the Rails cast, we did the photo op, like I mentioned. And yeah, that was a cool experience.
Check our Instagram for it. Yeah.
We got to post it there. But yeah, tell us, Mike, about that whole experience.
I mean, it was the most rushed photo op I've done so far, but it was still cool to get in there and, I mean, see Lars in person, see Tiya, see Vanessa Marshall, see Steve Blum. I stood next to Steve Blum. You see, I always get awkward in these photo ops, and I just go all the way to the damn end. I'm like, I don't know where to go. I just go to the end. Some people go in the middle. You know, I'm more of the person that I'll go to the end. So Steve Blum was like, pretend like you're having a great time, and like in Zen's voice.
We should just get the photo down.
Whatever.
Yeah. it's hanging right here.
This is gonna be,
for anyone listening on audio, this isn't great, but yeah, you can pause that and have a look. But
that's kind of glary.
That's the photo.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, we just have a great set of people. We went with Parks, Michelle, who's Ahsoka Extano, and then
both been on the podcast before. Parks, obviously, guys. We'll talk about meeting him as well, actually.
Right. So yeah, it was just great, and Tia was like, "Oh my god, guys, it's my friends!"
Yeah,
and that was a great moment, and yeah, it was great. And I look at this, I'm like, man, that's awesome. And I stood next to Zeb. I had to go.
Yeah,
I had a, I don't know. It was just great. So
no, it was good. And I have a very similar experience. For me, this is my first ever photo op at a convention. I'm not even a fan of actually. Well, I did one with Taylor Gray, but it wasn't like the official one. It was sort of like the at the table type thing. So I was like, oh, I really have no idea what to expect. Mike had sort of told me about it, and yeah, it was. Like, I'm looking at myself in that photo, and I'm like, I'm standing next to Lars Mikkelsen, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sircar, all these people, and I'm like, and I barely even remember looking at them.
Yeah, right.
Because that's just how cool it goes. But that's just the nature of these things. You got to have that expectation when you go in. So, but no, I saw a gap between Lars Mikkelsen and Freddie Prinze Jr. I was like, I'll go, because I'm slightly taller than everyone else. I was like, I'll go stand at the back and not block anyone. And now I'm just sitting there next to both of them, which is really cool though. And yeah, no, I'm really happy with it. It turned out well.
And I said this at the time, but I mean, I still look at this picture and I'm like, Lars Mikkelsen looks so out of place. He just looks like he washed
in the best
up.
way. In the best way.
He looked like he washed up there and was like, "Is this the right photo booth?" Like, but he was great. Like he's a funny guy.
He actually told one of our friends that it was his first like proper convention, like being at the table doing photo ops, all that.
Right. Yeah, we had some friends that went up and got all these things signed, or went up to talk to him. So that was pretty cool. I was heavily considering a Lars Mik. I don't know why I didn't, but I'm a big fan of Thrawn as well. But I was just like, I got 2 Rebels cast members.
Sure. I think we all spent enough money that week.
Yeah, we did.
No, and another cool thing on the way out, because I talked to Tiya Sircar, was from Melbourne. She said she might be going to a con there in 2 years, and she was like, "Hey, I'll see you in Melbourne." So I was like,
"Yeah, that's cool."
Man, that was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm just looking at that now, sort of like I'm gonna look at that for the next 10 years, like dissecting. And I kept making the joke with our friends, like I was like, I'm gonna look at this for the next 10 years and wonder what was actually happening, because like I have no idea what was going on. The lady, it was okay. I'm sorry, but she was so unnecessarily serious. She was like, "Okay, guys, as soon as the flash goes off, walk in there. It doesn't matter if the other people haven't walked out. Like, just go." And I was like, man, like, but then the thing is, like, they got through maybe they would have done 100 photos, and it took them about 15 minutes. I was like, guys, the photo cost like $400. Luckily, we split the cost, but you can take a few minutes with each person. Right. I felt like
no, it was appalling, because when we did the Clone Wars one, we got to go in and like basically, like, I remember just hugging. Well, I didn't even offer to hug Ash, and she came up and said, "Oh my gosh, how are you?" And I like gave her a hug, obviously, and it was just the warmest hug I've ever gotten. And I was like, I just hugged Ahsoka. Like, that is just so cool. And we got to like shake hands with everybody else and all that. So, and yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm looking at this photo. I know they've done photo ops before and stuff, but like, it's just, and it's the people there that were moving us along. But I look at the Clone Wars one, and every Clone Wars actor's kind of doing a pose, except Ashley that I'm looking at. But it was just like this, it's just always, it's going to be a talking point for me now. It's going to be so funny.
Lars looks like he is doing his school photo. I can't even lie. Vanessa Marshall and Tiya are like just trying to, like look the part.
Yeah. Freddie's
just like just smile, like that's the best I can give. And then Steve Blum was messing around with Mike, which was cool.
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome. But
very interesting experience.
Could you actually reach over and get the signed? There we go. I love this thing. This is a treasure.
We both got one of these. This is awesome.
No, he didn't. This is mine. I'm just kidding. He got one. We both, like you said, we got online and all that, and she was just great. Look at that, and we both picked the same picture. Funny enough, we didn't even plan on that. Yeah. So I mean, that is just great. So
for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So the photo op, that was cool, and then like that was really our main Star Wars things. We did some shopping, got some comics. Mike got some Black Series. Just like, I think as we sort of start to wrap up, like, I just want to say, great convention experience. Like the C2E2, like just the organized everything. I thought it was just a really well-run convention. I've been to, now that I'm getting a bit older, it's been a lot that I've been to, and I just thought it was really great. Like, and I hadn't been to one for 2 years, so maybe I was just really missing it. But convention floor was great. Just the vibes were really good. Everyone was so friendly. The staff, besides the really intense people just pushing us through that photo, it was really just great experience. And for us, we were just, Star Wars Rebels is like our favorite thing ever. So for that to be the focus of the convention just made the weekend really great, despite, the things that happened here or there. And something else that I was like, damn, like Tiya Sircar just deserves so much more respect. Like when we went up to it, there was no line for her. And I was like, damn, really? Like, right. And no disrespect to Freddie from Prinze Jr., but he was like just signing the paper, and he literally said to us, "Bye now." Like, it was like, get out of the way. Like, not trying to be disrespectful, but and I was like, damn, like if you guys are at a convention and Tiya Sircar's there and you're a fan of Rebels or Sabine, go to her table, get a signature or a photo or something. She is just the sweetest person. Yeah. She deserves to have like the longest line there.
Right.
So
you will not.
And Steve Blum, our friends, we didn't do the photo op or the signature, but our friends, met him and said it was the same energy, like just so nice, so much so giving with his time and everything like that. And his line was so long, I think obviously because a lot of people want to see him, but just because he was giving people so much time.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to him for sure. But yeah, you go.
I just love it for me when the actors I mean, you know what, they know what you're there for, right? You're there to talk, and also just I'm a big fan of you and the voice that you bring to and I don't want to make it sound like they're shtick, but it's like when we were talking to Matt Lanter last year, like he was just talking about his getting into the booth and how he would go, and like I even brought up this like little theory I had that in Clone Wars season 3 episode 2, oh my, what a nerd, like it was, but I was like, your Anakin sounds so different. He sounds like it sounded like you had a cold, and like Anakin sounds different in the Battle of Kamino and whatever. He was like, oh, you know what, actually, like that's funny that you say that, but I didn't have a cold. I was trying to like really deepen my voice because we were like at season 3 and like Anakin's a bit older. It was before like the whole jump between like the outfit change, before the little time jump that the show experiences. And I just want to show some growth, so I was trying to deepen my voice. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never knew that. And then he would do like, you know, in his Anakin voice, be like, Rex, Ahsoka. And we just like stood there like, oh my god, I'm about to melt, right? It's like, oh my god, we just heard him say that. But and Steve Blum is great at doing that, right? And Tiya Sircar, she doesn't even need to because she has that voice. But if I went up to Lars's table, I totally would have loved to like hear Lars do the, you know, menacing Thrawn voice and everything, the gentle but menacing Thrawn voice and all that. And I know Ashley does her Ahsoka thing all the time, so it's just I wish during the panel, to wrap it up, I wish we heard more of the actors doing that, because I know they would have got a big cheer from the crowd.
Remember Bad Batch? Season 2 panel, they did a whole scene. That was amazing. Yeah. Also, before we wrap up, shout out to all the friends that we were there with. So first of all, our friend Colin, I think he's been on our podcast. Yeah. He does his own podcast, the Star Wars Stuff podcast, and they do great stuff. We've hung out with him many times. He has the most awesome Chewie cosplay you'll ever see. He's part of 501st. He does a bunch of cons around the area. If you ever see him around, give him a big Chewie hug. He's the nicest guy ever. So I just wanted to give him a shout out, because that was one of the best cosplays I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was dope. I still have Wookiee fur in my mouth, but I got a Wookiee hairball just from all the hugs that I was giving Chewie during that week. Well, during that short time that we're with them. But
yeah, for sure. And yeah, of course, shout out to Michelle, Austin, Brian, Paul, Aiden, Toomey, Pete, and of course Parks. Great weekend hanging out with all you guys. Shout out to them. It was like a great experience we had with all them. And Parks, let's talk about Parks for a second. People might be curious. What was it like meeting Parks for the first time? Our third host, in a way, at the Star Wars Exchange. We wanted so badly to do a podcast with him, but as I'm sure you can all imagine, those conventions are chaos, and finding time to do that was pretty difficult.
It was very difficult. We were so planning on it. He was great. Like he's so funny. Like he's so funny in the way that you don't expect. Like I love his humor. And then I've had good laughs with him over the weekend, and I'm just like, man, like when I said bye to him, I like got very teary eyed, and I was like, go, before I start crying. And it was just so much fun hanging with him over the weekend. And he was just, I don't want to give away too much about the man, but like I just love his work ethic. Like we would all be, getting ready for the day, and he would wake up early and he'd be on his laptop writing his for his script for the Bear documentary, which he is working on. Can I say that? He did reveal that, right?
Well, if not, it's revealed now.
I actually texted him before. I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure, but
he did.
But it was just great. Like I think I learned some new things from him over the weekend. And he was just a great guy to hang out with. And we shot this really funny video walking to the convention the day before it actually started, to go pick up some badges. I got to post that on the exchange page, because it's just, it's great. It was a little bit of just the buffoonery coming from him and I, and then also Parks. But yeah, he's a great guy to hang out with, and I really can't wait to podcast with him soon again.
Yeah, we got it. Next time he's on for sure, we got to talk about that whole experience. But it was so cool hanging with him. He has such a funny sense of humor. Like we were just joking around the whole time. Me winding him up about, he'd say things to me like, "Oh, you've got to agree that like this is what people think," and I'd just be like, "I agree that that's stupid." Like something. I was just so no, we had a great time, and yeah, when I was actually watching a basketball game, believe it or not. And he was about to leave, and as the game ended, I called him. I was like, "Are you still here?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like literally walking out the door. So I ran through the convention center trying to find him, got to the door, got to say goodbye. And then just for whatever reason, like we hugged. I was like, "See ya." And then I like looked back and I was like, "Parks." And we just had that. And then he just did it back to me. And I was like, "This was the nerdiest, but like coolest moment ever." I was like, "Damn." Yeah. Shout out Parks. That was awesome. Hope you're listening. I'm sure he is very supportive.
Yeah, he is.
But no, agreed about the work. I think that man, oh my God. And we wouldn't even notice as well. Like we'd be all laughing, watching the video, and then like, and Parks would be laughing, and then two minutes later, I'd look over and he's on his laptop, like writing the Bear documentary. So, no, shout out to him. Anything else about the convention you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, but I will say Star Wars Celebration. I miss you.
Oh man,
This convention was great, but when Rebels is one of the headliners in 2024 for your con, it's kind of like, damn, where's my celebration at? You know,
hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. But but one thing I will say that this con totally rejuvenated my love for Star Wars Rebels. Like,
yes,
I love that. Like, I even put out the art book. I never know where to point, but I put out the art book, and Ari was looking through my Rebels books even, and he ordered some to my house.
I ordered 3 on next day shipping because I'm leaving tomorrow. But I was like, there's so much cheap here. I got to get them. And then I just had this moment. I'm glad I did though.
And it was funny because we got back to my house and then it was like mail to Ari Paevere. And it's like, what? Like so. But yeah, that's great, and I cannot wait to continue watching season 2. I'm like watching the episodes. I'm watching Rebels Recon. I just love this show. I think it's a beautiful love letter to Star Wars fans of the original trilogy and also of the Clone Wars, and it just ties everything real nicely together.
Yeah,
and it paved the new generation for Star Wars, and in a whole new direction too, where you can be so serious with Star Wars, but you can also be so goofy and have a good time. So
yeah. Also, I think me ordering mail to your house is a good sign. I'm getting too comfortable and you need to kick me out.
Yeah, I know. It's about time you leave.
I last of all for me though, I agree about the celebration thing. It's going to be I'm going to be on the plane when tickets for Japan come out, and me and my brother are hoping to go. It's actually easier for me to go to Japan from Australia than here, so I'm putting it in the hands of my trusted father to get those 2 tickets for us. So. Yeah, I miss our celebration too. Hopefully, we can get the tickets, and hopefully, this man can come. But looking unlikely. But we'll be back at celebration together again before you know it in the coming years.
Yeah,
they got to whether it's 2026 or 7, it will be back in the States, and we'll be going, and it'll be great. And we will be doing podcasts and covering it much better than we did last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you got to go to the convention center where Star Wars Celebration Chicago was held.
Yeah, great experience.
Which is cool. Even just being back there, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe Celebration was for 5 days and it was all here. Like imagine having Star Wars for a whole work week like that. I mean, Star Wars Celebration. So definitely, if it was not, I would cherish a lot more than I did back then. But I mean, I'm so keen to see where I just love panels. Like I even want to sit down and watch the Rebels Remember panel that I attended years ago, or all the seasons they did. I'm just gonna be scouring online for all these panels because Rebels is just a very important part of my life, and it helped me grow as a person. And I think just capitalizing on the fact that even on this podcast that we love Rebels so much, and attending this panel about Rebels, and you and I got this really cool art piece.
Oh yeah,
that you could barely see back there, but of Kanan and Ezra, there together, and it was just great. I mean, so we're on a total Rebels high, if you will.
We are.
I think.
Yeah. Sorry.
And also just concluding about the con was it was great with the people we went. We had a lot of good times. I wish someone just had a camera by our sides at sometimes because it was just the funniest of times, and it was just so fun. And it's always great to go with to these things with friends and all. And yeah, I just had a great time with everyone. And you know, we can all geek out and stuff, but we can also just be in real life friends and just enjoy stuff other than Star Wars, whether that includes Lake Michigan or Chicago pizza or basketball. It's just we can do it all.
I don't think we talked about Star Wars until like hours into being together anyway.
Right, right.
But yeah, panels, we love panels. We went to like at least 2 panels a day at Celebration. Like
we were they overworked us that time. But yeah, we went to a lot of
we were happy to. We were sneaking in, can't lie. We were meant to be in a lot of those panels, but anyway, maybe I should cut that. Anyways, I think we've talked about it before though. A few last thoughts. Rebels, I agree with you. The love has been rejuvenated, no doubt, and we're like just going. And I got one of the books I got was the Star Wars Rebels comic, which people have got. Rebels fans, get onto it. Mike's gonna order his soon. I'm gonna just sit on the plane and read that entire thing. I'm so excited too. If you've never been to a con and you're listening to this, I'd be surprised. But if you haven't, by any chance, go to a con in your local area. Like they're everywhere, small or big. Like the ones in Australia are obviously very small in scale, but they're still great fun to go to. So no matter where you are in the world, find a Comic Con, go to it. Even if you haven't been to one for a while, here's a reminder to go to one because we just spent 3 days there and it was just unbelievable. And 3 days, not enough. I wish it went longer. Like yesterday was our first day out of it, and we like I think we had this moment around like midday. Maybe we were both just so like, I really feel like going back into the convention hall right now. So yeah. Anyway, shout out to C2E2. Shout out to the cast of Rebels. Shout out to who else? All our friends. Shout out to Parks. It was amazing. Great weekend. And we have one more in-person podcast coming. I was going to say guess what it is, but I'm sure you can all guess. It's Bad Batch finale tomorrow morning. We're going to get up early before Michael. He has to take me to the airport. So yeah, and there's my message from the producer saying wrap it up. So with that in mind, we will. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll put timestamps in, skip to wherever you like. I'm saying that now as if you're not at the end of the episode. I'm rambling. Follow me at the Star Wars _exchange, Mike at all_Star Wars. Our podcast page, the SW Exchange. Get on that. We're going to post some funny stuff there. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on audio, we would love a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. As always, thanks for watching. May the Force be with you always. Adios.